All right, good morning. Welcome back here to Trader Minute. Great to have you aboard. Hope you had a fantastic weekend. Market is off here to a sluggish Monday morning. Here, nothing too unexpected. Not a lot of macro news factors out there. A little bit of rumor about China, U.S., and some key issues being taken off the table. But really, just not a lot of difference between what was going on Friday afternoon and what's happening here right now. Here in the markets. Let's get to it. Let's go take a look at the challenge, and then we'll go talk a little bit about Chipotle Mexican Grill, CMG, more from an investment standpoint, as Michelle has requested that I speak about it due to a few questions that have come in. So we'll go in and do that here this morning. But let's start with the challenge. Challenge is in all cash right now. Now, we had two signals on Friday. We had Oracle and Visa. They both triggered bullish. Great. I did not go get into them. Why? Well, I looked at Rule 11 here. When a new signal triggered and the option is more than 10% the norm, Jeff has the option to wait 2 sessions to trade it. And so I took that option. Why? Well, because as I looked at them, they were just overpriced for where the stock was and what we were seeing here in the price action. And I've been watching both of them closely since they triggered, and the options closely since they triggered. Let's go take a look at Visa first. This is Visa. Here's the option on Visa. Friday afternoon, the option was trading at 660. And with the stock down just a little bit more than $1, the option's trading around 550, right? So we're talking about a $1.10 drop here in the option price. Even though the stock itself has not moved enough to be affected by that delta, the delta on it's only 50 cents. So it has moved a little bit more than we would expect it here too. But come into the range where I'm okay picking it up, right? I'm more than happy to pick it up in this range and run with the setup from there. Now, that said, I'm not going to pick it up this morning. This afternoon is the last chance I'll have to pick it up, but I will wait until this afternoon. I do want to see if this market hangs in and holds on, and I would not be surprised to see some things slip back to their lows here today. So I am going to hold on here, till this afternoon to make a decision here with it. You can see the Bollinger Bands, contracting there, but it's not necessarily all that bad. This is common action, for Visa when it has some of these breaks. We see it, time and time again, where nice little pop up, like right back here, nice little pop up, and okay, 2 days down, and then go. So I don't feel like I'm going to be missing out too much here by waiting. I think it can only benefit the trade overall. And as I talked about on Friday, let's just say Visa takes off from here. Let's just say it goes rocket ship, goes to 180 this afternoon, and I'm left on the sidelines. Well, if the market's going higher, there's a lot of stuff on board to trigger, right? There's a lot of potential triggers out there, and this week that we will see come in. So it's not like I'll be without trading options. So we'll continue to kind of hold on Visa. We'll assess it again here this afternoon. Now, Oracle, it's up a penny here this morning. And, it's now flat, but been watching the 55 options on it, just the normal monthly options. I'll pull up the chart here for them. You can see the option price, it's about what it was, Friday afternoon, just a touch higher, a couple pennies higher, but it hasn't taken the dip that Visa has. Took a quick dip here this morning as the stock opened lower, but the stock has held up extremely well here so far today. So the option's not taking off on me. It's not, it's not leaving me. The setup here is still fairly solid, so I will assess it here again this afternoon, and that'll be my last chance to be able to get into Visa or Oracle. Now, when we run the, just the simple crossover scans, there are some crossover, there is some crossover action going on out there. On the bearish side, there's nothing. Now, earlier when I ran the challenge scan, we saw Valero on here. Let me show you Valero because a little pullback, it would have a 3-7 downside crossover. This is Valero, but the consolidation risk on it is very high. It is in consolidation. Today's action isn't something that's indicative of the next trend to come. Though we do have some, downside action coming in on the MACD and whatnot there, with Valero. So will be interesting to see how that plays out. But that was the only downside crossover here this morning, and again, it's not holding. But then the upside crossovers, and I mentioned last week that if we see the markets hold up, we're going to see a lot of upside 3-7 crossovers come into play. Now let's take a look at some of these here today. Now they could be signals by the end of the day, but none of them are signals as they sit. Here's Facebook. Right, it has the upside 3-7 crossover on it here today, coming off the new low. But we talked about this chart pattern here last week and how, this is, yes, it's coming off a new low, but we could see bullish signals, triggered off of this new low just simply because of how the new low was made. But with Facebook, so far it is not. We have GOLD. You know me, I'm very bullish when it comes to these gold miners. But, for the last couple of months, I've not been playing them personally. I think they need some consolidation. That said, we have a nice little 3-7 upside crossover here, and we could see a signal come out of this here by the end of the day. Intel. Now, Intel is one we played for the challenge already. We got whipsawed hard on it. This thing just absolutely went on its way. We got the news, and boom. It is snapped back, right back to, not right back to where we got in. It's still plenty short of that. But we are getting another fresh 3-7 crossover. This could be a signal here by the end of the day. If it is, I won't hesitate to go and jump in. AT&T, consolidation risk on it, very high right here, but a very bullish kind of flaggy pattern here. This is a stock that, we've talked about a bunch, and, we have the activist investor jump in right back here, and path the least resistance afterwards tends to be lower. This one is held up with a very flat, very, very flat trajectory since the activist investor, here over the last month, so it's held up extremely well. Here with AT&T, but consolidation risk for a trade right here, very high. Vale, this had a 3-7 crossover here today, and this is one of those unusual circumstances where the stock can go up, but yet still have a go down, but still have an upside 3-7 crossover. And that just happens the way the moving averages are calculated. 3 days ago was a big down day, so the 3-day moving average is getting rid of that data point and adding today's data point, and today's drop is much less than what it was 3 days ago. So it's, we get the upside 3-7 crossover. This is one of my favorite charts out there, just from a pure chart standpoint. You can see the kind of island reversal action that it had here last week, and had it on some very nice volume. It is a higher low, but it's not a signal on it here just yet. It could be by this afternoon, so we'll get a chance to assess that. And then last but not least, Verizon here does have a 3-7 crossover. This is kind of in the same bag as AT&T in terms of the consolidation risk that is on the table here for it. So a bunch of potential candidates for this afternoon, and we'll be looking forward to going through those and making a move here on them. But I am going to hold off as there's no new signals this morning, and then with Visa, Oracle, I do want to see how they hold up here by the end of the day. I don't think the market is out of the woods in terms of potential selling here today. Whenever we kind of have a Friday where it just melts up into the close, and that's what, let's face it, that's what we saw on Friday. It was a melt up into the close. That's oftentimes, followed by a gap lower and a bleed lower. And, we're not seeing a hard sell lower. It's kind of bleeding here today. But I want to make sure we're not bleeding back here to 2,900, which I do think is a potential risk here on the market and for a lot of the stocks that are out there right here, right now. Okay, all right. Chipotle. Now, Chipotle is on the challenge watch list, and it's had some upside, some downside, and all of that. It did have a bullish trigger right back here. Weren't able to play it for the challenge, but it kind of did the same thing as Intel. It got caught up in the market. Those 2 days, gapped up. It was ready to go, and then okay, here comes the market news that that drops it, and puts it back into this consolidation mode here. Now, we've talked about Chipotle for a couple years. You know where I stand on it long term. I'm extremely bullish. I think this stock goes above 1,000. We've been talking about that since the stock was trading in the 300s. This has a good chance of going up and above 1,000, and I still think it does. Right? I still think it does go up and above 1,000. That said, okay, this is a stock where technically I think we're seeing a little divergence from what we're seeing fundamentally. Right? Fundamentally, it's pretty easy. Take a look at the earnings expectations for Chipotle. This stock moved from a decent grower at 7, 8, 9% into double-digit growth. And when we see a stock move into double-digit growth, that's a big positive. It's expected to continue that double-digit growth here for the next while. So very positive there on the earnings, right? If we look at, on the revenue side, I had revenue up here. This is the revenue side. So very positive on the revenue side. Now, what Chipotle's been able to do is they've been able to turn that revenue growth into bigger earnings growth. And, we're talking about something that's well over the double digits, in terms of earnings growth. So, these numbers are priced in. These numbers are a big reason why we've been talking about Chipotle going significantly higher, and a big reason why I think it can go significantly higher from here. But Chipotle is in a little bit of a Twilio situation right now. What do I mean? Well, Twilio. Twilio is a stock that, I'm very bullish on long term. But Twilio, finally got all the good news priced into it. And let's just back this chart out here to a weekly chart. Fundamentals still strong, everything else. But this stock, it went from the 20s up here to 150, right? A monster move. It needs some sort of pullback. It's finally getting that type of action come in. And one of the things that we saw, and going back to the daily chart, is we saw some heavy volume sell finally come into it, right? And, okay, heavy volume sell, what does that mean? Tends to me we're going to be into a little bit more of a consolidation or correction period, and Twilio has done that. It's gone through this consolidation. It's pulled back, 25-30%, and in the big picture, that's not all that grand. But from a investor standpoint, you don't want to be here in at 150 and sitting there staring at it at 110, right? Well, Chipotle, from a chart standpoint, to me looks very similar to Twilio, to what we've seen with Twilio. It's had some heavier sell volume start to come in over the last month. Now, it's been bought back up on volume a little bit better than what Twilio was. So, it's not as kind of overpowering in terms of, that volume, that tendency element there. But, we have this kind of just rounding top type action. We're seeing some erosion with the momentum oscillators, right? You look at the MACD, stock's been going up, MACD's been going down, right? So we have some big momentum loss going on here with Chipotle. It's been a while since it's visited the 200-day moving average, and for as much as I'm bullish on Chipotle and thinks it goes higher over time, I can't take this risk out that it goes back here to the 200-day moving average. And knowing Chipotle, if it does come back to the 200-day moving average, it's going to overshoot, meaning it's going to break well below it and then snap back up. So that's what I'm looking for myself to get back into Chipotle from an investment standpoint, and we'll see if we get it. I'm not convinced that I get it, right? I'm not so convinced that I get it that I'm going to play it on the downside, and that just comes down to the fundamentals. You talk about stocks out there with double-digit revenue growth, double-digit earnings growth. It's a short list. It's not a long list of stocks with that characteristic, and Chipotle is, one of the best out there. With it, and let's face it, Chipotle has had a lot of bad news over time. And the bears and the short sellers really took advantage of it, took advantage of how they could manipulate it, and they've lost that ability. And we continue to kind of see Chipotle fight back after small sell-offs. We continue to see it shake off, some of the other news events that kind of come in. But Chipotle, it's an expensive stock. They have earnings on the 22nd this month, but they have that revenue and earnings growth that just other stocks in the market simply don't have. They still have over 6% short float, so there's still short sellers here in it. And that's enough of a catalyst that if the earnings are decent to send this thing up over 900. So for me, from an investment side, I'd like to see it pull on back. From a trade side, I'm just waiting for a signal, but I do think that there is some pullback risk here on it, and maybe more substantial than there's been here in a while with Chipotle, just given the fact that we see so much kind of technical erosion starting to kick in here for the stock. All right, so top long term, I don't believe so. Top short term, I think that risk is pretty high when it comes to Chipotle. All right. So hopefully that answers that for Chipotle. But we'll continue to look at it as time goes by, as earnings develop. It's one of my favorite stocks to follow and has been one of my favorite to trade personally here. So thanks for hopping on. Have yourself a fantastic day. I'll be back on with you here this afternoon, and we'll talk to you then. Take care.